Hey, loves, you're listening to the Be Well Beautiful People podcast, the show that inspires you to live your best joy filled life by centering healing and liberation above everything. I'm your host, Demarra West, author of Me Too, A Therapist's Journey to Heal, Find Liberation and Joy. It is a sheer privilege and pleasure to be in sacred space with each of you. Today's episode is part of our Alchemizing Trauma for Community Impact series, sponsored by the Love Building, H&B Building Services, and the Lit Bar. We're highlighting incredible Detroit leaders who have used their trauma, both individual and community-wide, as a driver towards transformative work in the Detroit community and beyond. My hope is these conversations inspire you to step fully into the power that you have to discover or further ignite your own healing journey, which ultimately helps to heal the world. I'm here with Raphael Wright, who is a serial entrepreneur and author. He's also founder of Urban Plug L3C, which is a social investment company designed to invest in Detroit's inner city, with its first major project, which brought a grocery store to Jefferson Chalmers neighborhood. We're going to be talking about how Raphael's personal experience growing up in a food desert himself fueled his passion for economic development that truly builds the health of a community. But before I do, let's ground in a quote by Hippocrates, who said, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." Raphael, what up, though?
That was deep. What up?
Hey,
That was deep.
that might be my first what up, though.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like I needed to be here a while before I could actually say what up, though.
Nah.
You don't think so?
Nah.
Okay, I did all right.
You did good.
Okay.
It rolls off the tongue for smooth. I wouldn't have known the difference.
Okay, good to know. But that was a deep quote, right?
Mhm.
That felt right size for your work, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be talking about all things food is medicine and how food has been a transformative force in your life. And one of the first things that I want to talk with you about is neighborhood grocery, which is just amazing. And it was born out of a clear need for healthy food in communities where food deserts are typically present. So tell us about the role that food deserts played in shaping your life and the work that you're currently doing.
So first, we have in recent years discovered that in cities like Detroit, where we actually didn't live in food deserts, that we lived in what was called food swamps.
Come on.
And a desert is dry and empty. It's not much there. There's not much to be grown or cultivated in a desert. But we have swamps, which I don't know is any better, probably worse, where we have food all over the place. We're not going hungry in the hood. But it's the type of food that's present that is the problem. It's not that there's no food. It's an overabundance of food, but it's, fringe food sources, fast food, overprocessed food that is causing the issues that we have. So I would say I grew up in a swamp, and that, one, I'm a victim of it, just like so many others of my age group and younger. It's getting younger by the day. People that are diabetic, they used to be an old person's disease. I was diagnosed with diabetes at 19, and that's becoming more and more of a thing, and that shaped the beginning of my journey with grocery. But I didn't realize it until now because I was striving for development. I never left the city of Detroit my whole time being on this earth. When I graduated high school, it was right before Detroit had declared bankruptcy, right before everything just started to go downhill. I graduated high school, and many of my classmates, they went to big universities outside the city, or they left the state altogether. I stayed and went to a city college, so I seen everything firsthand. I saw the decline. I saw the layoffs. I saw everything happening in real time with my own two eyes versus hearing about it on the news or whatever. So when things started to recover, I was still here too. And I believe that the development was only being centered in a few places, which statistically that was true. That was the case. Downtown and midtown of Detroit, that was the only place where you saw development happening, and not in the places where people lived at. So that's what sparked my interest in what does development look like in the hood.
Yeah.
What does it look like where I live at, around the people that I live around? Then that sparked the question of what is the development that's needed, and then grocery just became that thing.
Yeah.
So,
So there's so much that we're going to explore in what you just talked about, right? I mean, being diagnosed with diabetes at 19 and how that has, I'm sure, created so much change in your life, right? And even though you gave us a big picture of how you started Neighborhood Grocery, there were many things, I imagine, many changes that took root before that. And I really appreciate that you clarified, right? So oftentimes we talk about food deserts. And a food swamp is not the same thing as a desert. And I imagine, and this is really important because the way that we tackle and the solutions that we employ, they have to be derived from what's actually real.
yeah.
And so, what's the difference, would you say, between a strategy that is addressing a food desert versus a strategy that's addressing a food swamp?
I wouldn't want to invest in a desert. You know what I mean? So when we look at the lack of investment or divestment in these areas, like cities like Detroit, and neighborhoods that are in Detroit, it's the result of it being deemed a desert. You know, grocery leaves the city. We don't have that. Let me correct it. We do have enough grocery stores within city limits to feed everybody, but even those stores are not deemed good. But when you go across the country, many of these cities don't have the grocery stores. Detroit is unique because we had such a population plight. We can supply food for everybody here, but you go to a city like Chicago, you go to New York City or the state, cities in California, down in Georgia, they're struggling to supply food for everybody because of the population. We had a decline, so it's easier to supply here, but you no one wants to invest in the desert.
Yeah.
And then when you look at the swamp, your investment is going towards what's going to make the most money. So grocery is going to be on the low end of that totem pole because you put McDonald's or a fast food franchise up against a grocery store, the margin is just too sexy to resist. You're going to invest in the fast food franchise. So the people suffer when they don't have good grocery stores and there's no investment around for the actual grocery store startup. So that's the difference.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a double whammy because, like I said, I don't know that the swamp is any better, but I just know as a desert being the designated term used. I mean, who's going to want to invest in the desert?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I really appreciate like your profound thinking behind that, and also this question around, and there's been a lot of questioning clearly across your life. You shared many, right, just in this short time that we've been together. But even this question around, gosh, what's ultimately better? But yet you're doing this amazing work that is groundbreaking. And how does that feel for you to be in front of a solution that is having such an impact in community?
Sometimes put me under a rock. It's cool, but it is very overwhelming at times. The pressure is high, the expectation is high because what's at stake. Is we're literally if we're in the food space, we are literally selling life or death every
Yeah.
day. Being a part of the community fabric and the development fabric, we are anchors. When we are grocers. When you are a grocer, you are not just a grocer. And there was a older gentleman. This is probably my third day of opening. He came in the store. He grew up in a grocery store. He said his uncle had opened a grocery store in like the 50s or something. He's an older guy, and he like, your inventory gonna change. What you see here, it ain't gonna be here no more. You gonna fix this. You gonna build this. It's gonna get fatter on the inventory side. You gonna learn the neighborhood. Your real job is politicking in the area. And then that very next day, there was like almost a shootout like on the block, and this is a neighborhood that's typically quiet. There's not much happening over there in that neighborhood as far as like mess. And he like, that's your job. It's not gonna be to sell food. You know, I always say good dope sell itself, food sell itself. Your job is gonna be politicking in the neighborhood, that family that comes and want to borrow some milk and eggs, and you know that's gonna determine your reputation if you give it to them or not. You got to figure out the sweet spot in the middle on how you gonna politic in the community.
What a gift that was that he came into your store on the third day. And how did that change how you thought you were going to show up in that space?
It didn't change. It got real. I knew that was possible, you know, but for somebody to actually come in the space and say, "Up, that's your job." Like, it's not gonna be what you think it is, and the job that you have on the day to day, you know, that's just a part of the game. But your real job is really being a leader in an area that hasn't had one. And then, you know, what happens when they start hating you? That's just natural. What happens when it's time to grow, and then those growing pains happen. Like those are your job responsibilities, and if you want to put that on the resume, that's really what the resume is gonna look like. It's not inventory turnover and all this other stuff. Is how did you show up in the community? And it can get overwhelming at times. It can be that. But you know, that's what we signed up for.
Yeah.
So
And that's what you
stepped into.
devoted your life to, right? Did you know that it would be like this? When you said yes to this project, to being at the forefront of a solution in a food swamp area, promoting healthy food access, did you know it was going to be like this?
No, absolutely not. I thought I thought it would have been easier. I thought I would have been open sooner, you know, but the journey took longer because I needed to fix myself and adjust myself in ways. Once we opened, all of that stuff that gentleman presented, it came 100-fold. You know, instantly, you know what I mean? Because you're in a neighborhood, and the Jefferson Chalmers neighborhood is very unique because it is it's mixed with everything. It's mixed race, it's mixed income. You have a lot of families, and you have a lot of single individuals. You have, you know, mixed political views, mixed ideologies. It's a melting pot of a neighborhood. You know, that wasn't something that was on my bingo cards. I just thought everybody was the same, ignorant to me. But once you open up, and you know, we also border Grosse Pointe, which is I think the nearest suburb to Detroit. We border that city, and many of those residents come over and shop with us. So you're seeing different walks of life every day. When you get climates that we have right now with the elections coming up, you really get to see who people really are and how you need to show up for them. And the beauty of being in a store where the one product is something that we all need, whether you are Democrat, Republican, male, female, gay, straight, whatever, we all need to eat. So that's the one easy out I do have, is that I get to stand neutral and make sure that you're fed. I don't really care what any of the other stuff you got going on or how I feel about it. You still got to eat.
Yeah.
So
You know what occurred to me, Raphael, and I want to talk about your conscious decision to stay in Detroit in spite of the fact that many of your people, right, in your friend groups, they left, right? You could have left too. But before we do that, what occurred to me is that oftentimes if we are given the blueprint for exactly how things are going to work out, we wouldn't do it.
yeah.
Right? If we knew it was going to be this hard, if we knew it wasn't going to look exactly the way that it looks, and yet this is exactly the work that you were born to do, at least at this time in your life, right? I would imagine that. I would imagine just from hearing you speak when we first connected, there's a deep passion, there's a devotion that you have to this work, but there's also like this seriousness, right? And so talk to me about how you create lightness in the midst of something that is so serious, so closely connected to your heart.
In the questions that you sent me prior to the interview, that one word that stuck out was resilience. And resilience has several pillars that holds it up. And that's what we as a store tend to embody.
Mm-hmm.
It's a grocery store, but it's also really just an institution. We do
Mm-hmm.
other stuff in the space. We open it up for multi-use purposes,
Mm.
and that is how we stand out from any and everybody else. That's the one thing that kind of kept me there in the light part of it. Because I knew
Yeah.
earlier this is a serious thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, having this vision of, if we want to have music artists come through and do some live stuff, we can, do workshops and stuff like that. It's also an art gallery. So we have local artists that, have art on our walls, and the ability to do that brings light to a very, very serious issue like, our health.
Yeah.
It's something that we don't need to play with, but food is so artistic in itself. We can figure out ways to make it fun and make it cool. The rap and hip hop culture I grew up in never promoted anything related to health. It was always promoted the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And now we can promote that. Drink water, get some sleep. You don't gotta go to the club all the time. You don't have to be a womanizer. You don't have to be this or that. You can be in a straight person, just on a straight path. You be all right. You still cool doing that type of stuff. So that's the light in this very, very serious subject matter and work, because it can get very overwhelming.
Yeah.
But having that to look forward to, we just had a art workshop Sunday. Having kids in the space and they're feeling safe and they're learning while I'm learning. They're learning Chinese and how to draw, hieroglyphics, and all that stuff is cool.
Oh my
Along
gosh.
with the element of, providing healthier food. And we got other stuff in there too. We got snacks and
Like, who wouldn't
BS.
want to come to this grocery store,
Mhm.
right? Like, hearing you talk about the fact that it is truly a community grocery store. It's not just a grocery store that's in community. It is a grocery store that is representation of the community itself, and a gathering space for community that is a representation of people from all walks of life. And what I love about what you just shared, Raphael, is that you are creating experiences that are deeply rooted in your own values. You're creating the kind of world that you want to live in. Have you ever thought about that's what you're doing irrespective to the work?
Yeah. And doing it in a realistic manner, because I don't want to change the world. I think that requires the world. I'm one individual, and I just want to change the area around me. That shapes my view on competition and everybody else. Like, I really just don't even focus on most of what everybody else is doing. I just tend to focus on what I want to do and what I want as a result. And, hopefully it, materializes. So far, it's been, we've been doing close to that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I'm very, very intentional on what I want out of the store, but I'm not looking at the world and if I can just change the world.
Because that feels too big. And yet the reality is that you are changing the world, right? You're doing it one consumer and one neighborhood at a time, right? And I recognize that feels weighty, right? But the entirety of what you're doing in life is weighty, right? And I think that when we're stepping into the fullness of who we are, of what we were uniquely put on this planet to do, there is weight associated with that, right? But I also love that you've brought in purposeful opportunities for joy and rest and play and bringing people together so that there's balance, right? That's that, because life is about that yin and yang. And I feel like what you've created is at least on the precipice of what it means to really live balancedly.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
If I could define what my brand is, it's literally that. I just want to be in the business of being a better person and a balanced person.
Yeah.
That's all I can really ask for. I can't promise that I'm going to always show up the way that people want me to. Can't promise that I'm going to always hit a home run or a single or a double. But, it's the effort.
That's right.
Yep,
That's
that's the
right.
effort.
And I hear it. And even there was something that you said, and I want to come back to when you got this diagnosis of having diabetes at the age of 19. And even in the midst of you launching the grocery store, you had to pause. You said it took you longer because you had some work you had to do on yourself, right? So that speaks volumes about how you see yourself and your commitment to being the best version of yourself.
Mhm.
And so talk to us about what has happened? What changes have you made for your life from that very first diagnosis at the age of 19?
The first adjustment was health itself. It is very hard to tell somebody don't do this or don't do that, and you do it all the time, and they're gonna
Mm,
see it right. They're gonna see right through all of that. So I'm just being a living example, the best I can, because I'm not perfect, and
mm-hmm,
we always slip. Diabetes has been a decade plus old journey for me.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes it wins. And just being honest, what I'm saying? Sometimes that diabetes will win. Those snacks, you just get a sweet tooth sometimes. And it's like,
Mm,
and then I'm in a store all around it. So,
yeah,
but just the, again, effort, those are the things that I don't think was really present. I would have opened that store and the attitude around what we're doing there would have been very, very sour quickly. Practice what he preached. So
mm-hmm,
I had to make those types of changes. And I think that's pretty much the journey that God put me on was you got to come correct if you're
mm.
gonna do this work.
Come
So
on.
I had to, work on myself, my patience, stuff that you just think you don't need. Like I don't need to be patient. I don't need to be the healthiest person to run a store. Like you end up on your feet all day. You got to eat the right food to run 12, 13 hours a day, you know what I mean,
Mm,
on top of other things. So those are the adjustments that I was making prior to just wanting to run away from this issue of diabetes, you know what I'm saying, running to the solution of
mm-hmm.
reversing it for more people. Now I'm running towards it because I see it so much in the neighborhood. People are getting younger and younger, little kids diagnosed that, as diabetic. So it's time to work. It's
Yeah.
time to work. But it started with making my own personal adjustments with what I eat, exercise, sleep, stress management, and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I love the humility that you are exhibiting and that there's a recognition that life is really just a journey. It's making conscious decisions with what we know, doing the best we can, continuing to face ourselves
Mhm.
so that we can keep rising to the level that we desire to. And so, thank you for being so transparent about that. So you've had a hell of an entrepreneurial journey. This neighborhood grocery store has happened, and I would love for you to talk about what you've learned about yourself on this journey.
I've learned you always hear the term like social determinants of health. I didn't
Mhm.
know what those look like in action
Yeah.
um, until opening up the grocery store and seeing those things in action. You only think about money. So when we
Mhm.
talk about food insecurity, we only think about people not having money.
Mm.
And again, being in a swamp, money is circulating all throughout that swamp. I know,
Mhm.
living in a poor neighborhood, McDonald's ain't saying, "Oh man, it's a poor neighborhood. We don't need to be there." They like, "Oh no, we need to be over there because that's where the money is at."
Yeah.
Um, the issues that you see, they have nothing to do with money. It's more so time. That people
Mm.
are struggling with time management, and that's what's causing food insecurity more so than people not having money.
Yeah.
Education is another thing. I remember there was a stretch of time. What tends to happen after Thanksgiving is that grocery dies out, like until maybe like March or something like that. It just slows
Wow.
down.
Why is that?
Seasonality. People
Okay.
buying Christmas gifts or just focusing on holidays, so
Yeah.
they tend to eat cheaper and they eat out more in fast food establishments versus actually cooking food, and they don't have the time.
Yeah.
I remember having this downtime and I was walking up the street because, many of our neighbors are our customers and going in the garbage and looking at what was in the garbage.
Mhm.
You see a bunch of fast food bags and the stuff they bought from us that they just never touched. It just went bad and they had to throw it out. They don't know what to do with this food. So they don't know what to do with an apple other than bite it. And if they don't like it, they don't know that they can juice it. They can cook it away. They don't know what to do with the food.
They could
So
probably even freeze it.
yeah, they don't know. So, time, education has been more of a prevalent issue to me than money. Because
Yeah.
a lot of these, residents, they have SNAP and EBT. They
Mm-hmm.
have money or assistance to buy food.
Yeah.
But they don't have the time to cook it or prepare it, store it, whatever, preserve it, and they don't know how to do it, even if they had the time. So those types of things have really just stuck out. And how do we address those things is really more of a priority than what I thought it would be.
Yeah. So I love this acknowledgement about the things that you have discovered because I imagine that that shaped how you do programming at the store. So how are you filling this gap with time management, with education, irrespective to the grocery store?
The short answer is I have no idea because
And it's a big issue to
it's a
address.
big issue, and there's a
Yeah.
constant change of reading a room and knowing the audience. We got to figure out what people want. So right now we just working on being more prepared forward, having more prepared options for people that don't have the time. That's gonna change depending on the season, depending on the reason.
Mm-hmm.
There is no one solution. You just
Yeah.
got to be present enough to know what's being asked for at the moment. It shifts your focus on what you believe people should be doing to just really being available for people for what they're telling you they want to do, and that's really the key to this type of business is, I know entrepreneurs believe we don't have bosses. Our first boss, only boss are our customers. So they'll tell you what they want and you can be stubborn and not provide it, or you can figure it out.
Yeah, I appreciate this because as you were articulating how you have approached this, so that was the thought that I had was that, oh, right, he's listening to the people. Of course, there is no one size fits all because the people are going to change and what the people need is going to look different. And to be honest, I think that no matter what solution we're looking to conjure up in life, the people have to be the driving force to create whatever the strategy is that's going to be right size for them. And so I'm going to come back to a question I asked you earlier about why you stayed. When you could have left this city in a time when so many of the people that you cared about were leaving, why did you choose to stay?
More of the people that I cared about stayed than they left. So my family, they're a little older, so
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have a need to leave. I'm a family dude, so I stayed around with my family, and I think that was the better decision. I needed a more smaller, focused environment in college, so I didn't need a big university. So
Mm-hmm.
it was awesome. It's actually just cool that I stayed and got the type of environment that I needed. Yeah, but it was family. Most of my
Yeah.
family were here. I just stayed with my family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't even think about it as a thing until looking back at it. It's like, yeah, that's, one of the reasons why I feel the way I feel and move the way I move is because I think if I would have left, I would not be positioned the way that I'm positioned.
Mm-hmm.
I think that everything would be totally different if I would have left.
We probably wouldn't have neighborhood grocery.
Yeah.
Let's be
I
real.
don't think
Right?
that would have been a thing.
Yeah. And so neighborhood grocery has earned you a lot of recognition, right? And recognition that I'm sure you were not looking for and has blown your mind, but has also kept you grounded. And one of those had to do with a presidential award.
Yeah.
That's dope. So, like, talk to us about what that feels like to just be doing what you're doing for the greater good of yourself first and for this community that you're privileged to serve to get that kind of recognition for your work.
Uh, I did an interview years ago, and the title of it was "I just wanted to open up a grocery store." I just, um, just staying focused on the work has paid off dividends that you just wouldn't imagine, and the recognition is one of those things that I just never would have imagined. I
Mm-hmm.
can't even say I care about it most of the time.
That's what in part makes it so dope.
Yeah,
That it doesn't, you do it regardless.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter who's going to give you a stamp of approval or not. That's what in part makes it so cool, if you ask me.
Yeah, because even with the President's Award and then the next day happens, you got to go to work. So it's not something that you sit and, soak in it. This sounds such like, I know how this is finna
Raphael,
sound.
we keeping it real.
I know how that's finna sound, but it is what it is. It's a lot of stuff I expect at this point. Just doing this.
It's just commonplace.
It's just gonna happen. It's the convenient thing. It's the right thing to do to award the guy that's doing that good work and the other person that's doing that good work. So a lot of this stuff I don't put much stock into. The President's Award, it's a whole new level of recognition because you have a lot of local like awards and recognitions that they're baked in politics. It's like, if I don't like him, he's not gonna get the award. Stuff like that is like, now I really don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, the highest office in the country recognize my work. Not to say that your award is whatever, but when I don't get it, I don't care. Because, still do the work.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So when you look for those awards, that's when you start cutting corners on your work. When you just do the work, those opportunities going to come. So
yes.
I just, again, the President's Award, whole new level.
Yeah.
But a lot of this stuff, it happens and then the next day, you got to go to work. So, it's one of those things that I'm still figuring out. How do I celebrate a lot of that stuff? You know what I mean? I'll get there one day, but it's a lot of work.
I'm gonna challenge you to like get there sooner rather than later. But what I want to name quickly is that what you said about, well, it's work as usual. I think that's one of the things that keeps you grounded, right? I think that's one of the things that keeps your eye on the prize, that you want to show up with a level of excellence in your work, and you're going to do the work anyway. Whether the president's office recognizes you or not, you're going to show up and you're going to do this because you know for certain this is what you're supposed to be doing right now within your life. But brother, I also want to invite you to celebrate even the day off. You've given me your day off today in part, or a portion of it. Even if it's the day off where you're doing something to just slow down and celebrate all you've done and all you're going to do on this journey, because you're just getting started in a lot of ways. That even though you've been on this journey for more than a decade, you know that you're just getting started, right?
Don't get it confused. I celebrate.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, it's not one of those.
But you don't do it as much as you would like to, maybe.
I don't do it as loud as people expect me to.
Oh, that's so interesting. So what do people expect you to do when you get these honors?
What they do,
Okay.
And they is, I guess the populace that, big party,
Okay.
Social media post all over the place. I always equate that to you was just shocked that it happened. Like,
you too low key for that.
I ain't low key either.
Oh, okay. Well, it just seems like you are.
I try to be, but working. I mean, I work in the fishbowl. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I couldn't leave if I wanted to at the store, and especially like that first couple of months, like the news wouldn't even ask, could they interview? They would just show up.
Of course.
So stuff like that, like I ain't low key at all. But I think because I'm not low key, what is expected is, when you gonna throw a party for this? We celebrated our 1 year anniversary. It was like, you ain't gonna throw no party? Nah, I'm good. You know what I mean? My daughter's birthday is a week after our anniversary, and it's Halloween. I got other stuff. My daughter bugging me about what she want for her birthday and Halloween. I ain't thinking about celebrating because I'm only doing it for you. I done already celebrated at home.
Yeah.
I done did it with the people that I care about.
Yeah.
And that care about me genuinely enough to where we can celebrate and be festive. But
well, I love that you set the record straight, right?
Yeah.
Because you gave me the impression that there was no celebration,
Oh,
no
no.
time for celebration.
Oh, no.
But what I'm hearing you say is that you celebrate in ways that are most meaningful to you.
Yeah.
And that you're focused on the most important things. And right now, even though, yes, a year is a big deal for you to have your grocery store, to hear you talk about your baby and her being actually central, the central focus, along with Halloween, because I imagine that she does her thing on Halloween, and maybe you do your thing on Halloween too. But what I hear is someone who really understands what is most important in life.
Yeah, most important to me as an individual. And I think
Yes.
that's where we get lost as humans. We tend to care more about what everybody else want them to do. I do what I want to do
Yeah.
more times than not. And a lot of times that can cause some feelings, but I do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like I'm so deserving of that because of the risk I take every day and the work that I do every day, which is not easy and very, very hard to do. I do what I want.
I love
And
that,
if
which
I
is
want
like
to-
ultimate liberation,
Yeah.
right? Like knowing who you are, knowing how you want to live, and giving yourself permission day after day to bask in that. That's just so amazing. So I want to switch gears here a little bit and talk about the importance of Black ownership. I believe that this has been one of the stances that you've taken. It's daunting, right? To be one of the only, how many Black grocery store owners do we have in the country? Do you know?
I don't. We got 3 in the city.
In the entire city, there's only 3 Black-owned grocery stores that are here.
Yep.
So,
And a Black-led co-op.
yes, yeah.
But, so technically 4, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
In a city that is majority Black, it's only 4 of us.
Which is a travesty, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And I think that's the most stock I put in the Black thing when it comes to like grocery. Getting in grocery, you totally understand why you have only a few of us in it. This is hard work and it is ugly work. It can be boring. It can be exhausting, and I can just do something funner. Or is that a word?
Yeah.
I could do something that's just more exciting.
Yeah.
And, when we look back at the history, and I hate the way that we have kind of, I guess, rewrote why we don't have as many Black-owned grocery stores in the country, and it was this this intentional thing that took them away. Don't nobody want to do this work. The people who do the work now, they are getting out of the industry. You know what I'm saying? The Chaldeans and the Arabs that run most of those stores all throughout the country, and here's more Chaldean centered, they getting out of the industry left and right because it's not fun.
Yeah.
It's not. There's more money to be made somewhere else doing more exciting work. They don't want to do the work no more. So it had nothing to do with, whatever we have put out there in the past, we as Black folks. That was a part of it, but this is just not fun work to do.
Yeah.
You don't make money doing it, and the sacrifice of time and all of that. This is really a labor of love. So having more people doing this work because they genuinely love it that's where community is really built. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things you need to see people that look like you providing that type of essential service.
Yeah.
But I can also argue on the other end, if your house burning down, you don't care what that person look like that's gonna come save you from that house. So to say that a Black person is going to be the better selection only because they're Black, we run a real dangerous line of that, a person's character, which is easier to see in a small store like mine versus a Kroger or Meijer or whatever. I take pride in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Way more than just the color of my skin. And then just the competitor in me, I want to be the best grocery store in the city.
Period.
Not just the best Black grocery store in the city. I'm not competing with the other 3 bodies that look like me in the industry. I'm competing with everybody.
That's real.
In the industry. So I don't care what you look like. I want to be better than you. So that, is very, very important because of the children and what they can take out of seeing somebody look like them in the space. But in the grand scheme of things, just be the best you can be. And color don't matter, gender don't matter, age don't matter. Strive to be the best you can be, and all of that stuff matters at some point when you make it matter.
Yeah. So I really appreciate all of the points that you made, and I would also love for you to talk about not just in the context of grocery stores, right? Knowing the hardship that comes along with taking on that kind of work, but why do you think that Black ownership in general is important for community healing? Why is this vital? And how do you hope your story can inspire others to take similar action?
You tend to care about who's around you. Having a store, dentist, having a school
Mhm.
that's either ran, controlled by people that look like you, or flat out owned by people that look like you tend to see a higher rate of like upward social and economic mobility. That's not always the case. Like I
Mhm.
said, just because I'm Black and you Black, that don't mean I don't care any more than, somebody else. Like I could be worse.
All skin folk
Um,
ain't kin
yeah,
folk. Come
so I
on.
could be worse, but we tend to see the community gel together
Mhm.
in a quicker way
Yeah.
when we're all working together. So ownership amongst the community, it tends to matter. And you just
Yeah.
tend to live around people that look like you.
That's right.
But, we have to also inject more virtue in the community. We cannot continue to excuse BS just because we Black. You know,
Mm.
there's a lot of things, and I also use my platform in the store to address. There's a lot of women being mistreated and children
Come
being
on.
mistreated by people that look like us,
Mhm.
not nobody else. So the same energy that we put towards somebody that don't look like us, we need to put that same energy in the areas that, a lot of our neighbors don't even speak. They just, oh, he Black. They don't even say hi. But let a white person move in your community, you gonna want to know who they are, where they work, and all this other stuff. Do that to everybody, and we'll have a better
Mm.
community. The policing will be better. The vetting will be better if we just carry that across the board, not just for a specific group of people. But like I said, the ownership element is important because when we are successful, we tend to, while I say I can do whatever I want to do, what I want to do is help somebody that look like me. You know
Mm.
what I mean? So, and that tends to be more present than not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that for that reason, the ownership element and Black ownership is important. It's very important.
Yeah. Well, and value the fact that you're highlighting the importance of us doing our own work. So oftentimes we're looking outside of ourselves and saying, well, this is the problem. And even though this is the problem, we are the problem too.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why racial healing is so critically important, because as we're talking about in your example, police brutality, let's also talk about the Black and Black crime, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's also talk about the fact that we're killing Black bodies. Let's also talk about that we're abusing women and children at a rate that is just astronomical. Now, we could argue that that's the case for any community, but we're talking about the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that you highlighted that both from a perspective of you doing your work internally and externally so that you can be the best human that you can be over and over again, but also that when we're talking about community change work, let's be honest about what's actually present
Mm-hmm.
and the role that we're playing in our own suffering and in the suffering of other people.
Yep.
So that's so powerful. Thank you for that. So looking ahead, what is next for you?
I have no idea.
So no projects on the horizon. I know the grocery store is taking up all your time, right?
We're building the kitchen right now. So,
Okay.
just penetrating more into food is on the agenda. Looking to make some upgrades to our garden.
Mm-hmm.
So that is next, but that's more short term. I'm thinking long term. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting stock into figuring it out. I will let it come to me. I think that right now the path I'm on is the long term strategy.
Yeah.
in the long-term plan, but
Mm-hmm.
that can change tomorrow. And,
Mm-hmm.
right now what I'm working on internally is just being ready for that, just letting God guide me and me not being afraid of wherever that takes me.
Yeah.
So it may be something different. I always say, it starts with food, but it doesn't have to end there. I don't know where I may end up to end this story. It may not be in food, you know what I mean? But this has to be a part of it. So
Absolutely.
I'm just excited that I'm around and just I'm open to whatever comes, what best I can be. Like I said, I'm allowing God to take the wheel, and wherever I'm driven, I'm gonna get out the car and do my job.
Mm. Well, you just gave us a tremendous amount of wisdom in that you're giving yourself the gift of just presence. You know that there's always going to be more. And the fact that you're saying, guys, I'm enjoying this ride. One thing I know for sure, food is going to be a part of it in some shape or form. But I can't guarantee you that this is going to be the end of the story, right? And I imagine that it's not going to be, because at the end of the day, as you're doing your internal work and showing up in excellence, irrespective to the work that you do, you're going to keep discovering new ways of being in service of food liberation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think so. Yeah, I really I think this is always going to be here. What that looks like, I don't know what society is going to change into. I don't know where grocery will be 5 years from now versus 15 years from now. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm just being, again, present and open to whatever is being presented. I'm ready to take on the assignment, doing what's in the best interest of the people that we serving.
Yeah. And working hard to enjoy the journey while you're on it, which is so beautiful. So as we wrap up, Raphael, what advice do you have for others looking to create meaningful change in their communities, especially when they face systemic barriers like those that you've overcome?
The only advice that I continuously give or constantly give is follow your heart. We are not as ignorant to things as we think, because it's already here and God has
Mm.
already provided it. So sometimes advice can throw you off, because I can park my fears on you. What
Mm-hmm.
didn't work for me or didn't work for this person, that person, I can park that on you and then stop your whole trajectory. Follow your heart, do whatever you feel is right, and just have faith that you gonna fall forward. We all gonna
Mm.
fall, but just hope you fall forward. You can get back up and move. Do what you want to do. End up where you need to be.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to end us, King. So share with the people how they can stay in touch with you, because I know that they're going to want to.
Social media wise, I am on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook at FAIRO_RAFA. That's my personal page. Neighborhood Grocery is on those platforms as well. Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or X. I keep saying Twitter, but I love Twitter. But
Listen, I know I'm still on that Twitter bandwagon too.
yeah,
Where
but
did
it's
X come from? I mean, I
either
know where it came
yeah,
from, but you
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean.
It's Twitter.
Yeah.
So, pretty active on those sites. You can hit us up there.
Yeah, awesome. Raphael, I just want to share my immense gratitude for you taking time out today. I know that you are a very busy man working countless hours, making dreams happen every day, getting food access into the hands of the people. And I just appreciate you for saying yes to this, because, like you said, you do what you want to do. And so I am grateful that this was one of the things that you wanted to do, my brother. So thank you for tuning in today, y'all. My heart is full. I hope the insights that Raphael and I shared have opened up new pathways towards your healing and liberation. And if either one of us can be of service, you know exactly how to stay in touch. Be sure to tune in for the 8 other episodes on the Alchemizing Trauma for Community Impact series and the 100+ additional episodes that we have on the Be Well Beautiful People podcast. If you found value in today's show us some love by telling everyone you know about it, by visiting Raphael's grocery store, by rating our YouTube channel, and doing a rating on whatever podcast platform that you are currently listening to. And you are always welcome to share your thoughts with us directly at info@bewellbeautifulpeople.org. And if you haven't picked up my memoir, Me Too, A Therapist's Journey to Heal, Find Liberation and Joy, I invite you to do so at demarrawest.com, and you can use the code Alchemizing to get 25% off. The Be Well Beautiful People podcast is sponsored by The Love Building, a subsidiary of the Allied Media Project and home for the social justice and creative community right here in Detroit. We're also supported by H&B Building Services, which provides top-notch, reliable building services for all your personal and professional needs, and the Lit Bar, which is all about bringing the beauty that already exists within you out. We are going to leave you with the words of Oprah Winfrey. You get in life what you are willing to ask for. And I'm going to add whatever you're willing to work for. Until next time, beautiful people. Ashe.